Hey, it's Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. But before we go any further, you know the routine. I need for you to like this video and please subscribe to my channel. So we have it, the weigh-in. Everybody set, locked and loaded. George Kambosos coming in at 134 and Teofimo Lopez, 135. Both guys are ripped. Both guys are angry. Both guys are ready to go. And both guys just did another 30-minute stare down. It was good. It was good. They look intense. Kambosos always looks intense. It was. I never try to read too much into a stare down, because honestly, it's just a stare down, and you shouldn't read too much into it. I've had a lot of stare downs, but that doesn't mean anything. Some people are more affected by it than others. Some people just honestly don't like being that close to somebody that they're about to fight. I mean, some people just don't like giving eye contact. So I try not to read too much into it. If I were to read anything into it, I would say Teofimo doesn't look as comfortable as he's been portraying himself to be with this fight. If I were to look into it, normally he has a lot of this. Normally he's a lot of rah rah, and in the stare down, he was looking away. He didn't like. And Kambosos is like, you know what I mean? Like he's like right there, and Teofimo's like looking at the lights, and then he like turns to him, and then like they lock eyes, but it just didn't seem like he was that into it. I'll probably say it like that. But like I said, I really don't read too much into weigh-ins. You can't, because unless it's like an Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz type of situation, that first weigh-in was truly weird. I mean, they were nice to each other. He hands him his belts and all this weird stuff going on. But outside of that, you can't really read too much into, he looked more angry. Oh, what does that mean if somebody looks more angry? So I don't read too much into it. I will say it's going to be a great fight, an amazing fight. I think this is going to be a much harder fight for Teofimo Lopez than Lomachenko. One, because Kambosos is bigger than Lomachenko, and he's a lot more aggressive. People think that Lomachenko is an aggressive guy. He's not like an aggressive fighter. He's just so action-packed and tricky and active in everything that he does that it comes across like he's aggressive. But he's not like an overly aggressive guy, because a lot of the stuff that he's doing is really just setting you up to be in this place because he needs you here and he wants you to do this and he needs your arm down low, and he's just setting you up for things. But in the meantime, he's just keeping you busy with something else, just preoccupied. But he's not an overly aggressive fighter, honestly. And as opposed to George Kambosos, he's a very aggressive fighter. I mean, he trained with Manny Pacquiao for many years. And listen, if you're going to be training with Manny Pacquiao, you can't be some slouch. You can't be some guy who's like, oh, I'm just going to wait. Or, you need to be an active fighter. You need to be ready to rock and roll. And that's the kind of fighter he is. He's also, I'm not going to call him a machine gun puncher, but everything comes with a combination with George Kambosos. Everything comes with a combination. One thing is going to hit you, and then this is going to hit you, and he's going to come over like this, and everything has a combination to it. His jabs have combinations. So this is going to be, I believe, a very fast-paced fight. I believe this fight is also going to start very fast and then continue a high pace throughout the fight. I believe George Kambosos has everything he needs to hurt Teofimo. Like I said, I not only think this is Teofimo's toughest test, but I think it's probably the most dangerous guy he's ever been in there with. I think Lomachenko was the most brilliant guy he's ever been in there with, but hands down, I think Kambosos is going to be the toughest physical, aggressive guy that he's ever been in there with. And I definitely believe he can hurt Teofimo. He's a pretty good body puncher too. And, in my fight breakdown for Teofimo, I've noticed that he doesn't like body punches at all. And he's about to go in there with somebody who can let him rip to the body. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because of the pace. It's going to be interesting because of the punch selection, because Kambosos, he's going to throw everything at you. He's not going to be like, well, I'm going to work on my jab on this round, and he's not that type of guy. Everything goes every round. Teofimo is a bit of a thinker, and he likes to pull back a little bit and just look at the landscape and see what he needs to do. Kambosos is not that guy. And I think he's thinking he can muscle Teofimo around. If you notice, every time they do a face-off or something like that, Kambosos is always like, just letting him know, hey, I'm bigger than you. And you're going to feel my physicality in the fight. And I think that's going to be one of his strong suits. I really do. I think it's going to be one of his strong suits. I think it's going to be the pace. I think it's going to be the punch output of George Kambosos. And I think his body punching could be a very effective factor in this fight. I have some gripes with George Kambosos. One, I think he's a very emotional fighter. And the thing with emotions, it's just like after a while, your emotions gotta wear out. Look at the Charlos. You can't be angry every freaking round. You know what I mean? So when you go in there super angry and super charged, I don't know if that's always the best thing to do. Some people need what they need. I personally believe Canelo fights from a place of anger, and I think that's what he needs. I think he personally needs to not like an individual to make him fight harder. Some people need that, some people don't. Look at Floyd Mayweather, and it's like, hey, it's just business. This is literally just my contract. I'm punching you because I'm going to get paid for it. Not because I hate you, not because of anything else. It's just because I'm going to get a check in like 28 minutes. That's why I'm hitting you. And then there are some guys, I'm hitting you because I hate your guts. And that's that. I just hate your guts and I'm going to hit you. And it just so happens that I'm getting paid in 28 minutes. But I hate your guts. I think George Kambosos is a very emotional guy. I think he carries that emotion with him, and I think he brings it into the fights with him. I don't know if that will serve him in this fight with Teofimo, because yes, Teofimo is relatively young, but he's a very mature fighter up here, very mature. And he could take advantage of something like that. If he could outswindle Lomachenko, if he could egg out a win over Lomachenko, trust me, he has what it takes right here to work your anger and your emotion to a disadvantage. And I believe he's already done that because, George Kambosos can't stand Teofimo Lopez or his father. And I feel like, a lot of that anger is toward the father, because the father, they're both very vocal, but the father is also very vocal. And it's just like, if you're so much focused on, you need to be focused on one guy. Don't be focused on the trainer. You're not fighting the trainer. So you need to breathe a little bit, because that could literally come back to haunt you when you're so angry and you're so, I just want to get my hands on them. Sometimes when you have that, I just want to get my hands on them mentality, you could, number one, forget your game plan. Number two, be blinded by anger and rage and not see that you are not winning, or not seeing that you're doing something well. You might not even be listening to your corner because you're blinded by those two things, and that can work against you. So he's a very emotional guy. He's a very, very emotional guy. I know that his family's in Australia and he's here, so I understand those things, but he's a very emotional guy, and that could come back to bite him on the night up. So if anything, if I were in his corner, I would just try to keep him as relaxed as possible. I would, keep him in good spirits, tell jokes, whatever the case may be. Hey, I don't know, let's watch Batman versus Superman or something like that. I don't know, but keep him in good spirits where he can't sit up for the next couple hours and dwell on the fact that he wants to punch a hole through this guy's head. I don't think that's a good mental thing for him to be. I think he needs to be relaxed. I think he needs to be reserved. And I think all those emotions need to come once he's in the ring, but I don't think it's good for him to go to sleep on those emotions. Hopefully that makes sense. But I'll say a technical thing that he does that I'm not a fan of is because, again, of his emotion, he oversteps and he overcommits to all his punches. and that could be a problem. That could be a big problem when you overcommit and you have a guy who Teofimo isn't exactly the fastest guy in the world, but his timing is impeccable. And he will catch you if you slip. He will see you when you slip. So be careful and be mindful of what you're doing. And don't be blinded by rage, because Teofimo is pretty good at catching people when they mess up. Um, he's got a few wins like that where everything wasn't just him being raw power or something like that. A lot of times you'll see guys miss swinging at him and then he'll just catch him, knock him down. So not to mention he's a really good counterpuncher. So Kambosos needs to be more calculated in his punching, which he does tend to get a little wild. And I don't mean just flailing wild. I just mean once he's in his he'll just go, go. And that's where, you can kind of tell that he's part of Manny Pacquiao. He's been around Manny Pacquiao a few years because he's kind of got that same mentality that Manny Pacquiao has. Manny Pacquiao, once he puts his foot on the gas, he's not going to let up until either you're out of there or you're out of there. That's just kind of the way he is. And George Kambosos, he kind of has the same mentality. The only difference is he doesn't have the punching power of Manny Pacquiao. That's the difference. He doesn't have the punching power. He has a puncher's mentality, and he's been around a heavy puncher for a long period of time. And I don't want to say he's adopted his mental, his mindset when fighting. I don't want to say he's adopted that, but at the same time, I think if you spar a guy like Manny Pacquiao on a regular basis, you need to have a certain mindset because you can just tell Manny Pacquiao is not the kind of guy who spars at like 70%. He's not that guy. You can clearly tell. There are people who are like, oh, let's just, we're just learning, we're just learning. And then there's guys like, screw learning, I'm gonna kill you. Sparring to them is the same as a real fight. And you can kind of tell Manny Pacquiao kind of has that thing. So whenever he would spar Manny Pacquiao, I could assume they would just have some gym wars up in there. So basically, I'm just saying don't get caught up because Teofimo Lopez, he's a pretty sharp guy. He's very sharp. And if you mess up or you overstep, which Kambosos tends to do is overstep, it could lead to a very tragic night for him if he were to overstep with Teofimo. I'm not saying don't be yourself, and I'm not saying to not keep the high pace because I think that high pace is going to work in your favor because Teofimo likes space. He likes a very controlled fight, and he likes to he doesn't like a high punch output. So by all means, do you, but don't get crazy at the same time. Unless you have a man hurt, don't get crazy. That's all I'm saying. But overall, I guess, you got to pick a winner. I'm not the biggest Teofimo fan in the world. I think he does a lot of things really well. I'm not the biggest George Kambosos fan in the world either, but I do like the way, I just like his mentality. It's like almost like a grudge. Everything is emotional. And I think that's what my thing is when it comes to the Charlos. I just like that they literally believe it's us against everybody. And because they have that fire in them, it's fun to watch, to be honest with you. I feel like they both have things to beat each other. However, I'm only saying Teofimo is going to win only because he beat Lomachenko. That's it. That's the only reason why. Because quite frankly, I think George Kambosos has everything to push Teofimo not only to the ledge, but over. But Lomachenko is such a highly skilled fighter, such a highly skilled mind. He throws so many punches. He's doing so many things. He has such fast feet that are always active. And because Teofimo kept up with him, I'm going to give a slight edge to Teofimo Lopez. I don't see this being a knockout whatsoever. If I do, I would actually lean that towards George Kambosos. I see it being a decision, and I also see it being a split decision. for Teofimo Lopez. And please hear me one more time. I'm only giving him that because of his win over Lomachenko. That's it. But I need to know what you think. You know the drill. Drop your comments down below. And as always, please like and please subscribe.